Welcome to NodeCast Explains.
We were flabbergasted. No due process. Those are the words of Frank Olvera. His wife, Cynthia, a Canadian citizen, was arrested in Los Angeles during what they thought was just a routine immigration interview. They believe it was a trap. And what's truly unsettling is they are not alone. Their story shines a light on a new and deeply alarming reality for a growing number of Canadians traveling to the United States.
You see, this isn't just one isolated, unfortunate incident. As of right now, Global Affairs Canada is tracking about 55 Canadians being held by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now, that number goes up and down, but it points to a really chilling trend along what we've always considered the world's friendliest border.
What used to be a simple weekend trip across the border has, well, it's transformed into something else entirely. The relationship between our two countries is clearly under strain, and for everyday people, the consequences are being felt in some of the most frightening ways imaginable.
And look, this isn't just a feeling or a few scary stories, it's official. The Government of Canada has issued a pretty stark travel advisory. The language here it's unambiguous. Expect to be scrutinized. Expect them to search your phone. Comply. And understand this, if you're denied entry, you could be detained. The message couldn't be clearer, the rules have changed.
And the people on the front lines, they're saying the same thing. Len Saunders is an immigration lawyer who's worked at the Blaine-Washington border crossing for decades, and even he says he's never seen anything like this level of enforcement. This isn't just some minor tweak in policy, it's a fundamental shift.
So the big question is, how did we get here? How did a simple trip to see our greatest ally become a source of such genuine fear? Well, this didn't just emerge from a vacuum. To understand why a Canadian citizen can now end up in an ICE detention facility, we need to rewind the clock. The answer is tangled up in a global saga of tech, sanctions, and international power politics, a saga where Canada was forced to play a central and very, very costly role.
It all really started on December 1st, 2018. At Vancouver International Airport, Canadian authorities, acting on a direct request from the United States, arrested Meng Wanzhou, the CFO of the Chinese tech giant Huawei. And that one single act, it set off a geopolitical firestorm that we're still feeling the effects of today.
So let's just walk through the timeline. The US accused Meng of fraud, saying she violated American sanctions on Iran. Now Canada, because we're bound by our extradition treaty, we made the arrest. Just 9 days later, China retaliated. They detained two Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, and accused them of espionage. For nearly 3 years, Canada was stuck right in the middle of a superpower standoff.
And the price for upholding our legal obligation to the United States was immediate, and it was steep. The detention of the two Michaels plunged Canada into its worst diplomatic crisis with China in decades.
And you just have to look at the disparity in their conditions. It was stark. While Meng Wanzhou was under house arrest in her multi-million-dollar Vancouver home, with full access to her legal team, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor were held in Chinese prisons. They faced harsh conditions, years of uncertainty, and near-total isolation.
International observers, and frankly our own government, didn't mince words. They called China's actions exactly what they were: hostage diplomacy, a clear, brutal act of retaliation designed for one purpose: to pressure Ottawa into releasing Meng.
Then, after 1,028 days, the crisis ended, just as suddenly as it began. In September 2021, Meng Wanzhou cut a deal with the U.S. Department of Justice. She got on a flight to China, and within hours, the two Michaels were on a plane coming back home to Canada.
The way it worked was through something called a deferred prosecution agreement. So Meng didn't have to plead guilty, but she did have to admit to a statement of facts, basically confirming she had misled a bank about Huawei's business in Iran. That allowed the U.S. to drop its extradition request, which allowed Canada to end the legal proceedings, and everybody got to go home.
Okay, so this is where it all connects. This is where that massive global crisis comes full circle to the fear Canadians are feeling today at the U.S. border. Because the story didn't end when the planes landed. For Canada, a brand new and deeply unsettling chapter was just beginning.
It really felt that way, didn't it? I think there was a collective sigh of relief right across the country. But the Meng Wanzhou affair, it exposed something absolutely critical about Canada's position in the world. And it set a precedent that is now, it seems, coming back to haunt us.
To really get what happened, we need to introduce a key concept here: lawfare. It's when legal tools, things like extradition treaties, are basically weaponized. They're used as instruments of foreign policy in these massive great power rivalries. So there were really three different ways to see the Meng case. Canada, we operated strictly within that first box, the Western legalist view. We followed the rules of our treaty to the letter. But for China and for the US, this was always about that third narrative, lawfare. It was a battle in their escalating tech and trade war, and Canada's legal system, well, it became the battlefield.
And here is the absolute crucial point. Canada's compliance, while it was legally correct, it sent a signal to the entire world. It showed that our justice system could be used to advance an ally's geopolitical goals, and because of the way our own laws are written, that compliance was almost a foregone conclusion.
You see, our own laws actually help explain why this happened. Canada's 1999 Extradition Act essentially shifted power away from judges and gave it to the executive branch, specifically to the Minister of Justice. This leaves the political arm of government holding the real power to decide. So in a high-stakes case involving our most powerful ally, the pressure to comply was just immense. We played by the rules and we got drawn into a game of lawfare. And now, the consequences of that game appear to be arriving from that very same ally right at our own border.
From the horrific detention of the two Michaels in China to the detention of ordinary Canadians in American ICE facilities today, the price of our alliance is becoming painfully clear. And it leaves us with a deeply unsettling question for our country's future. When you're caught between giants, what is the true cost of playing by the rules?